Good morning, gentlemen. It is Monday, May the 13th, 2019, and week six has just concluded here in the Bigs. Interesting week across the board. A lot of moving, a lot of shaking, a lot of blowouts, a lot of surprising results. I do want to at least preface this by saying this might not be as in depth as previous weeks. Much of my week was consumed by a baseball trip to San Diego and to LA this week with one of our managers in the league as well. Um, Not an excuse for why I lost this week. That has everything to do with my pitching, but I wasn't able to keep up as on top of it as I normally do. That being said, next week I may also have an issue getting this video up on at the same time. Um, some of you may know I'm a 911 dispatcher here in Las Vegas. This weekend we have a rather large once a year festival happening that I'll be working Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday out at the Speedway without any way to possibly stay on top of this because I'll be working like 14 to 16 hours a day. So Monday I will have to do all of the research and try to put this thing together. So if I have to delay it a day and put it up on Tuesday, I just might do that. Um, Otherwise, I should have everything back to normal by week 8, and we'll go from there. Um, with that housekeeping out of the way, let's kick this thing off. And the first place team coming into this week was myself. And I took on the 16th place team in Ari Nisman. And, Ari, I've said for a while that Ari is the manager that if somebody is going to dig themselves a hole like Ari has, where he's in last place and it's May and he wants to make a playoff push, this is the type of manager who could do it. His pedigree is there. So he is that dangerous type of team that could start to put together a run here. And before you know it, you see him creeping up into the middle of the standings. Close categories this week. Ari won by 1 homer. I won by 2 saves, and we tied in wins. Everything else was close going into Sunday, but got very stretched out because, well, his team performed and my team didn't. What the fuck else is new? On his bench this week, he went 13 for 53, which is a 245 batting average. 8 runs, 3 doubles, a homer, 5 RBIs, a steal, 7 walks, 13 strikeouts, and 2 errors. Nothing to really shine a light at as far as his roster moves, and nothing really sticks out as far as this guy should have started and another guy didn't. At the end of the day, Ari won, and he did a great job managing this. He and I were pretty close in everything that wasn't a pitching category because holy shit did I have a bad week, but his offense came to play and mine did not perform as well, and credit to him. For my shitty ass team this week, I went 10 for 35, which is a 286 batting average on the bench. 5 runs, a double, 2 homers, 4 RBIs, 6 walks, and 9 strikeouts. Again, a lot of it is not offensive. The issues I ran into was absolutely on the pitching side. I streamed Drew Pomeranz on Monday. He blew up. I streamed Adrian Sampson on Tuesday. He blew up. I played Pablo Lopez on Saturday. He exploded. Trevor Bauer had an awful start on Monday. It was a gross week where I was trying to chase getting my ERA under 5 because if there was one team coming into this week that I had that type of blow up against, and I still felt confident I could somehow pull it off, it was Ari, because Ari's had a really bad pitching performance to this point, season long. This is his best pitching performance to date, a 3.65 ERA and a 1.22 WHIP over just under 50 innings. Fantastic. Well done, Ari. It looks like you're starting to put this together, and that's a testament to you. It took you 6 weeks to sort of get your pitching underneath you, and now if you go forward and start racking up some wins, we'll see it. We'll see it in the standings. Key players for this matchup, and I've said it coming into this week and a few weeks prior. Ari's going to go as the Rockies go. Charlie Blackmon has a huge week, a 400 batting average, a 520 on base, 4 homers, 5 RBIs, and 9 runs scored. Nolan Arenado has a big week, 421 average, 500 on base, 5 runs, a double, a triple, a homer, 6 RBIs. And Ian Desmond has a big week, 400 average, 500 on base, 4 runs, 2 triples, a homer, 4 RBIs, 3 walks, and 4 strikeouts. I think they played the majority of, if not all of their games at home this week. They did, with only one being postponed. So, you get a full week's worth of the Big Boppers in Colorado, and your offense comes out swinging. It's a smart roster construction move to take the 2 big hitters from Colorado, supplement it from what you would imagine are hitters in other great lineups. Names like Josh Reddick, Vlad Guerrero, Travis Shaw's in the middle of that Milwaukee lineup, though he hasn't performed. This team is better than his almost 30 games under 500 record states. Granted, his pitching is what has hurt him thus far. This week, his pitching was great. Walker Buehler went 14 innings with a win and 15 strikeouts and only, it looks like, 2 earned runs. Anthony DeSclafani went 10 innings with a win and 10 strikeouts. His ERA wasn't great, but that's more due to the not great start in San Francisco he had and not the good start against San Francisco he had on the 6th. And Jose Urena gave him a great start, 7 innings, 1 earned. That start was in Chicago, so I don't know very many people that would have thrown that against the wall. But that was a smart start. It was a good one for him. For me, offensively, Francisco Lindor came to play. 355 batting average, a 364 on base. 2 steals, 2 runs, a double, and 2 RBIs. The reason I gave it to him was more because of the steals, because it's one of only 3 offensive categories I won. Michael Conforto, who I saw in San Diego this week. I believe I saw him do quite well. What game did I see him play well in? Oh. He went 0 for 4 and 0 for 3 respectively in the games I saw him. So never mind. He did have 2 homers this week with 4 RBIs and a steal and 4 walks, 4 runs scored with a 313 and a 455 on base. And Yoan Moncada, though he only hit 231 and had 11 strikeouts, I mean that's what comes with the territory of Yoan Moncada. However, he is having a fucking phenomenal season so far. He hit a homer, 6 RBIs, 2 doubles, and 3 runs scored, along with 2 steals. Pitching wise for me, and it was only 3 starters that actually had decent starts. It was Chris Paddack, 7 2/3 and 11 strikeouts. It was Jose Barrios, 7 innings, a win and 5 strikeouts, and Eduardo Rodriguez, 7 innings, a win and 5 strikeouts. Those 3 guys were fantastic. Had I only started those guys and my relievers, maybe I would have made the innings minimum, and it would have been a fantastic week for me. Instead, I decided to get cute and try to jump out to a big lead pitching-wise and tried to get Drew Pomeranz against Cincinnati. He was terrible. Trevor Bauer was bad. Adrian Sampson was horrible. Pablo Lopez gave up 10 runs in 3 innings. Everywhere I turned around, every guy was getting lit the fuck up. Joe Musgrove, his regression showed up. My ERA was 6.75 for this week. And I had 3 guys throw me 7 innings of shutout ball. I'm lucky it was only 6.75. Ari's guys came to play. It was a fantastic week for him. He does not dig himself out of the basement yet, but I could see that better things are coming for him. And he's a manager with a ton of pedigree in this league, so we hope to see you down the line, further up the standings, Ari. We move on. We move on to a pair of owners who changed their names this week, and Jimmy changed his team name just minutes before I started recording this. It was Smoke and Mirrors Jimmy Dunlap, and now it's Double Max Jimmy Dunlap against Jose Told the Story Chris Levy. Chris gets a win here, 11-9, and it's the second team in the bottom three teams coming into this week to beat the top two teams. So that's a testament to exactly how deep this league is, and how every week, no matter whether you're playing the team in first place, the team in the middle of the pack, or the team at the bottom, you need to be on top of your game. That has always been true in the bigs. I am incredibly proud of being a part of this league for so long because of its depth. And I mean, you guys make it fantastic to even be able to provide this video for you guys. For Chris, close categories. Chris won wins by 1, complete games by 1. Jimmy won runs by 2 and stolen bases by 2, and they tied in triples and saves. For Chris, who won the week, he went 12 for 42 with a 286 batting average, 3 runs, 3 doubles, a triple, 6 RBIs, a stolen base, 3 walks, 7 strikeouts, and an error on his bench. The only thing that stuck out to me was on Wednesday. Looks like Ronnie Rodriguez was on his bench and went 3 for 4 with a double and a triple. And Trevor Story's game was postponed. I believe it was snowing in fucking Colorado in May, because that's a thing that happens. That triple would have won him the week. Not that that's a huge deal. But in this league, every category matters. So to see that was a bit disappointing. He wasted 2 moves. One was Carl Edwards Jr. on Tuesday. He picked him up and then dropped him for Lucas Giolito, so I don't blame him one single bit for dropping him for Giolito. Giolito's been unbelievable. He also picked up Jared Eichhoff this week, and those are 2 young kids who look like they're starting to break out this season, at least over the last couple of starts they've had. So if you compare them with the pitching he's already got in Eflin, Strasburg, and Porcello and Michael Wacha, the early grave he's dug himself, he's starting to dig himself out of now. So it's going to be interesting to watch what he does over the next few weeks. For Jimmy, he went 8 for 35, which is 229 batting average, 2 runs, 2 homers, 4 RBIs, 3 walks, and 9 strikeouts on his bench. Nothing egregious. Late in the week, he had a couple of homers on his bench. But again, it was nothing that stuck out to me saying, oh my God, you needed to get this guy in the lineup. Wasted 1 move trying to get a reliever late in the week. I guess he was probably trying to chase relief appearances, even though he won it by 8. I guess Hector Velasquez wasn't the guy he was looking for. Otherwise, it was a pretty straightforward week for Jimmy. Just his offense. Look, neither guy's offense came to play this week. It was much more a pitching matchup, much the opposite of mine and Ari's. Key players this week for Chris. We're going to go to Michael Brantley, who's very quietly having a really good season. For a 9th round pick, this guy might be having a breakout season if he can stay healthy. I mean, it's not that long ago. He was a top 2 round pick when he was on Cleveland. He had a really, really good season. For this week, Brantley went 304 with a 360 on base, 3 homers, 5 RBIs, and 5 runs scored. For the season, Brantley's hitting 331 with 10 homers. How did Houston, who already has a ridiculously stacked lineup, get this guy too? How did nobody think, you know what, this is probably a good guy to sign? Houston's the team that gets him? Amazing. Trevor Story, Chris's number 1 overall pick. Fantastic week, 304, 360 on base, a homer, 3 RBIs, and a steal with 6 runs scored. And Ronnie Rodriguez, I mean, he picked him up late in the week, late last week, if I remember correctly, or was it this week? No, it was late last week. He picked him up. Didn't get him into the lineup very much, but when he did, he got 2 homers and 2 RBIs. It was a doubleheader that against it. It was a doubleheader in Minnesota. He went 2 for 7 with those 2 home runs. Unfortunately for Chris, those were the only 2 hits he gave him this week because he did miss out on the 3 for 4 that I mentioned earlier. For Jimmy, I'm sorry, pitching wise for Chris, Lucas Giolito. I mentioned him earlier. 14 and a third, 2 wins, 16 strikeouts, only 1 earned run over that entire time. This is a former top prospect for the Nationals. He was like the guy that was traded. Him and Ronaldo Lopez were the 2 guys that were traded for Adam Eaton. If this kid's finally putting it together, it's a fantastic situation because last year he was just so god awful, and now all of a sudden he's got 46 strikeouts over 38 innings, and his last 2 starts have been really, really good. Zach Eflin for Chris, also a complete game shutout. It's the second time in 3 starts he's gone for a complete game. Granted, the first one was against Miami and he gave up a run. This one was in Kansas City and it was a shutout. But in between those 2 starts, a start at home, 7 innings, only 1 earned run against Washington. I mean, if this is another breakout star that's coming for Philadelphia and on Chris's team, ridiculous things are ahead. And Jared Eichhoff, I mentioned him earlier, 8 innings of shutout ball in St. Louis. St. Louis has been really hot lately. And for Eichhoff to go in there and shut him down, I mean, those 3 guys put together a fantastic week of, close to 28 innings, 4 wins, a complete game, and 27 strikeouts with 1 earned run. That's gross. Like that. How are you going to even counter that? And yet somehow Jimmy did. For Jimmy offensively, he had Tim Anderson have a 320 average, 370 on base, 2 homers, 6 RBIs, 4 runs, and a steal. He had Alex Bregman, 261, 345 on base, 3 homers, 8 RBIs, and 3 runs scored. And Anthony Rizzo went 304 with a 429 on base, 2 homers, 4 RBIs, and 3 runs scored. Again, offensively, neither of these teams really showed up despite that stacked stat lines I've just given you. Jimmy wins batting average with a 216 batting average and a 296 on base. He has 11 homers and 29 RBIs, but that batting average is awful. And Chris only hit 176 with a 254 on base. Just dreadful offensive numbers, but the pitching stats is what really blew me away in this matchup. For Jimmy's pitching line, Brad Peacock, 7 innings, 12 strikeouts, and a win. No earned runs. Michael Givens, 3 relief appearances, a save, 4 1/3, 6 strikeouts. Luis Castillo, 6 innings, 11 strikeouts, shutout ball. Jeffrey Rodriguez was a great pickup for him. 12 innings, 9 strikeouts. Everywhere you look, Zach Greinke, 7 innings, 1 earned run, and 7 strikeouts. Everywhere you look up and down this matchup was fantastic pitching performances. And that was where the battle and the matchup was won. Chris won ERA by 0.03, 254 to 257. And those 2 ERAs over 78 and 70 innings respectively is fantastic. I mean, you can't ask for much better than that. And we move on. We move on to Mike Haber, Teoscar named Desire, going up against Lesser of Two Evils, Frank Bucco. This matchup was a lot closer for the majority of the week than the 14-6 final that it shows. However, you point to a couple of things again. Mike won by 1 save. He won by 0.04 in ERA. Frank won by 1 loss, and they tied in stolen bases. For Mike, who won the week, he went 12 for 41 with a 293 batting average, 7 runs, a double, 3 homers, 11 RBIs, 9 walks, and 7 strikeouts. Offensively, I could sit here and nitpick the way the couple of moves that he made, but he won nearly every offensive category, so what's the point? I could sit here and tell you that Michael Chavis had 5 RBIs on his bench, but he won RBIs by 7, so there's no point to it. Only 3 moves for Mike this week. They involved relievers mostly. Joc Pederson and Wellington Castillo were the other, offensive players. Nothing stands out. For Frank, however, on his bench, he went 11 for 64, which is a 172 batting average, which is, good to see. But the counting stats is of those 11 hits, 7 of them were of the extra base variety. He had 6. He had 6 runs, 2 doubles, a triple, 4 homers, 10 RBIs, 6 walks, 17 strikeouts, and 2 errors. You do like to see the large number of strikeouts on his bench, but again, those extra base hits are what really cost him this week. 2 doubles, he would have closed that gap to 1, and you can chase that number. 4 homers, again, he would have closed it to 1, and you can chase that. 10 RBIs, he would have won that stat. 6 walks would have put him within 1. 6 runs doesn't get him close. But those counting stats, those extra base hits, and especially the RBIs, those are the things that made me scratch my head. A couple of minor moves. Hunter Dozier on, what day was that? Friday. Was 0 for 4 at first base. Mitch Moreland, 2 for 3 with a homer and a double and 4 RBIs on the bench. Nick Castellanos, but the one that got me was Saturday. Nick Castellanos was on his bench in a doubleheader, and he played both games. And he went 3 for 9 with a double and a triple. But Gio Urshela was his utility player and went 1 for 3. Why would you bench Nick Castellanos, who is obviously a slugger on the team, 6th round pick, top 100 pick? You'd bench him in a doubleheader. I believe the doubleheader was in Minnesota, which isn't a terrible ballpark, for Giovanni Urshela, who's, granted, he was hot this week, but it's Gio Urshela. You're going to bench Nick Castellanos for him. And to see him hit a double and a triple on the bench, frustrating to see. Moves this week from Frank. He finished off my belief that I texted him, a week or so ago that 5 guys on his team weren't going to see the 15th of May. All 5 of them were dropped by the 8th. So I gave him an extra week to hang on to them. It didn't happen. The one thing that I saw that was interesting, he picked up Kelvin Gutierrez on Monday, didn't get him in the lineup, and then dropped him the next day for Domingo Santana. Now, I get picking up Domingo Santana. He's been hot to start the season. But this is also the guy who has a ton of outfielders already. And if you liked Gutierrez enough to pick him up, why don't you play him? Looks like the response to picking up Domingo Santana was to drop Jason Hayward. Spoiler alert for everybody here. Earlier last week, I had both my left fielders on the DL, and I had to find a replacement. I offered Frank a trade of Dan Vogelbach for Jason Hayward. He was looking for a first baseman. I'm looking for a corner outfielder. And he decided not to do it. And now both of those guys hit the free agent list by the end of the week. So, it's kind of funny what you do with your team. Key players this week for Mike Haber. Justin Turner came to life this week. 417 average, 462 on base, 8 runs, 5 homers, 10 RBIs. Huge week. Eugenio Suarez was no slouch himself, playing third base most of the time. 400 average, 471 on base, 10 runs scored, 3 homers, 5 RBIs, and 4 doubles. And finally, Mookie Betts, though he only hit 238 with a 467 on base because he had 9 walks, 8 runs, a homer, and 3 RBIs. I mostly gave it to him because of the runs and walk totals because he won both of those categories by a rather large margin. Pitching-wise for Mike, Aaron Nola gave him 6 innings, a win and 7 strikeouts. That start came in St. Louis. So a good start against a hot team. Madison Bumgarner was spectacular. 12 innings, 15 strikeouts, a 3.75 ERA, which has more to do with the 3 earned runs he gave up in Colorado. But to see 8 strikeouts in Colorado, you can't ask for much more than a quality start there. And finally, John Means. John Means is a bright spot for the absolutely abysmal Baltimore Orioles. Gave him 13 innings. Looks like 2 earned runs with 8 strikeouts in 2 starts this week against Boston and against the Angels, both at home. The start against Boston was much better as it was 7 innings and 4 strikeouts, whereas the start against the Angels was 6 innings, 4 strikeouts, 3 walks, and a homer. Both were wins, though. For Frank, it's J.D. Martinez this week for him, as J.D. went he only had 217, but he had a 345 on base, 3 homers, 6 RBIs, and 7 runs scored. Domingo Santana was a good pickup for him, 316 average, 350 on base, a homer, 3 RBIs, 3 runs scored, 2 doubles, and a triple. And finally, Nick Castellanos, despite the doubleheader that was missed, still hit 250, 286 on base, 4 runs, a double, a triple, a homer, 3 RBIs, and only 2 strikeouts. Pitching-wise, Frank's pieced together a pretty solid rotation here. John Lester, 12 2/3, a win, 12 strikeouts, no earned runs in 2 starts. They were against Miami and Milwaukee, which is the surprising one. Caleb Smith, who's apparently decided that he's having a breakout season after last year, went 6 2/3 in Chicago with 11 strikeouts. He was dueling against John Lester. I don't think either of them factored in. No, neither of them factored in the decision. I believe that was the extra innings game that they had down there. And finally, Martin Perez, who Frank picked up late in the week. Or no, he picked him up late last week for the start on Monday. He pitched both games for Frank, went 12 innings, 16 strikeouts, and a 2.25 ERA. Start in Toronto was far better than the start against Detroit at home. He went 7 innings and 9 strikeouts in Toronto, whereas he went 5 innings, got the loss, and 7 strikeouts against Detroit. The cancellation of Caleb Smith's start on Sunday against the Mets probably screwed Frank out of strikeouts. And with a solid start, may have gotten him ERA and WHIP as well. But Mike's offense came in on Sunday, put the hammer down, and dominated. Gave him the really lopsided win. I think if it doesn't rain in Queens on Sunday, Frank does take strikeouts, ERA, and WHIP, which does change things a bit. It makes it an 11-9 win, but Mother Nature rears her head once again. And we move on. We move on to the beating of the week. It was stand room only, James McCloskey. This was really the only team I was following other than my own this week because James was with me in San Diego and LA for those games. He defeated Josh Haber. Well, I'll be damned. He beat him 18-2, and to be honest, it wasn't close all week. James really put the hammer down this week. Josh's team did not come to play, and close categories. James won by 2 walks, a strikeout, and a save. Josh did not win a category very close. I mean, he only won 2. He won innings by 3 2/3 and walks by 3. And those are walks given up by a pitcher. They tied in triples and errors. For James, he went 10 for 32, which is a 313 batting average, 5 runs, 3 doubles, a homer, 3 RBIs, 2 walks, and 7 strikeouts. The only thing that made me scratch my head was Byron Buxton on the bench in a doubleheader, whereas Kevin Kiermaier did not play, and he was in James's lineup. It just goes back to, if you have a doubleheader, you have to assume that your guy is going to get in at least one game. You know, it's a 25, 26-man roster. Somebody's going to be playing both games. And if your guy is not starting in the first game, you have to assume he's going to start in the second game unless he's hurt. You know, so for Buxton, he went 2 for 4 with a double. Not that it hurt. You know, it didn't. As a matter of fact, he had a strikeout which would have tied strikeouts. You know, so it actually works out. But I just wanted to make the point about doubleheaders, where if your guy isn't in the lineup in the first game, don't bench him. He's going to play in the second game, more than likely. And if he doesn't, okay, then you've at least, you've run the risk of him not playing in the second game. But by that point, everybody's tired. Bullpens are probably, especially if the first game's a blowout or if it's, a long game, bullpens are tired. I rest my case. For Josh, he went 10 for 51, which is a 196 batting average, 6 runs, a homer, 2 RBIs, 4 walks, and 15 strikeouts on his bench. Nothing egregious there. I think this week he was much better suited to be paying attention for his team, because we did not have the repeat of the Kurt Suzuki and Yan Gomes issues. We didn't have the Brandon Lau issues. However, the issues he did run into, his team just didn't hit. Like, his team just did not come to play this week. He made a ton of roster moves and attempted. I got to give him credit. Sunday, James and I went out to a Las Vegas Aviators game on Saturday night, and we saw that Josh was going to try to take ERA and strikeouts and possibly wins by absolutely dumping out as many guys as he could for as many starters as he could. He streamed Senzatella and Godley and Jacob Junis and Stephen Brault and Adrian Sampson. Problem is, none of those guys performed well. It's actually a really bad day for him. Kudos to him. He did get at least one category, and he didn't blow up so bad that he lost walks. So, well done in that department, Josh. Key players for the week for James. Hunter Renfroe, 292 batting average, did not draw a walk, so he has the same on base percentage. 3 homers, 4 RBIs, 3 doubles, and 4 runs scored. We were at 2 of the games in San Diego. It was the 7th and 8th, I believe. And we saw Renfroe hit his home run. There's a shot to left. We saw him steal a base. He performed very well for James, and he's an admirable replacement for these guys who are on his DL in Judge and Stanton. Mitch Garver, great pickup for the week for him. 462 average, 611 on base percentage with 5 walks, 2 homers, 5 RBIs, 4 runs scored, and the only triple on his team. CJ Cron also had a great week. 391 average, 417 on base, 3 homers, 6 RBIs, 3 runs scored, and a double. Considering Cody Bellinger only hit 385 this week, but he didn't have a homer and only had 2 doubles. He was still a great player. Excuse me. Don't get me wrong. He played great. But to see somebody else pick it up for James, man, his team is really deep. And all of a sudden, he's starting to find pitching now. Hyun-Jin Ryu is all of a sudden the Dodgers' ace now. 17 innings, 2 wins, a complete game shutout, 15 strikeouts. Almost got him 2 complete game shutouts this week. As he had the complete game shutout at home against Atlanta, 6 strikeouts there, and then had a no-hitter going against Washington. It ends up getting broken up in the 7th, I think. But he went 8 innings, 9 strikeouts, only 1 walk, and got the win there. So that's 17 strikeouts, 15 strikeouts, 17 innings, a walk. It's a .35 whip for the week. Fucking sick. Taylor Rogers gets the one and only save of this matchup. So he's going to get the and it's the only relief appearance that James got him for. So lucked into that, I suppose. And Kenta Maeda, another strong outing for the Dodgers. 6 innings, a win, 6 strikeouts, no earned runs. That start was also against Washington. It was the day after we saw them. We saw them in the Rich Hill versus Patrick Corbin matchup, where Hill gave up a 3-run homer in the first inning, and then it was like lights out the rest of the way. For Josh, not much to write home about, but Freddie Freeman did have a good week, a .360 average, no walks, so a .360 on base. 3 runs, 2 doubles, a triple, and a homer with 4 RBIs. Josh Donaldson had a decent week for him, a .261 average, a .320 on base, a homer, 3 RBIs, 2 runs, and 2 doubles. And finally, Eric Hosmer, whose home run I did see live and in person. Jeff McNeil just mistimed his jump. Otherwise, that would have been a robbery. And to see Manny Margot rob somebody later on in that game was very, very disappointing. Hosmer hit .240 for the week, .269 on base, that homer, 4 RBIs, 3 runs, and 2 doubles. Pitching-wise, Kyle Hendricks had a great start. 8 innings, 7 strikeouts, shutout ball. That start was against Miami, but he got a no decision. Cole Hamels also had a decent week, 13 innings, 12 strikeouts, a .277 ERA in his 2-start week. The better start was at home against Milwaukee, 7 innings, 5 strikeouts, only 1 earned run. And finally, Joakim Soria, 2 relief appearances, 4 strikeouts, 3 innings and a win. Again, Josh didn't win relief appearances or get a save, but the rest of his pitching staff was pretty bad. So I'm not finding a single guy that is worthy of it other than Soria. This is, the only reason this isn't a shutout is because, again, Josh streamed a bunch of pitchers for Sunday and got innings, and somehow didn't blow his walks. Like, had somebody gotten 3 more walks, this would be, 18-1. James dominated this matchup. He's put together a fantastic season thus far, given the injuries that he's had to Judge and Stanton. Joey Gallo has been having an absolutely career year, even though he's only hitting about .250. Cody Bellinger is an MVP candidate. And he's just piecing together a really nice team with a really nice start to the season, and he absolutely deserves to be in first place at this point. For Josh, he falls to 15th. Another rough week for him. 209 average, 272 on base. That's not going to win you very much, unless you find a matchup like I mentioned earlier. We move on to another matchup that I thought would have been much closer than it was. Angels of the Trout Field, Bobby Russo takes down Mike Sherman 13-6. Close categories for the week. Bobby wins by a triple, .006 in batting average, a win, a save, and 2 strikeouts. Mike wins by 1 loss. They tied in strikeouts, offensive strikeouts, errors, and relief appearances. Another matchup where offensively we saw a lot of the counting stats and they were very close, but overall the teams just didn't come to hit. A .218 batting average gets the win, a .300 on base percentage gets the win. Like, just kind of a bad week overall. For Bobby on his bench, He went 20 for 72, which is a 278 batting average, 9 runs, 5 doubles, 3 homers, 9 RBIs, a steal, 12 walks, 19 strikeouts, and an error. The one thing that stood out was on Sunday, for whatever reason, he had Chad Green on his bench. And Chad Green got into the game, and that would have won him relief appearances, which would have made it 14-6. As well, on Tuesday, his team went 5 for 17 with 2 doubles and 3 runs and a homer and 3 RBIs and a steal on his bench. The team in the lineup hit 138 on the day. His bench hit 294. That is incredibly frustrating to see, especially I'm sure being the owner and seeing that you've got to just pound your fist on your desk and go, God damn it. Bobby only made a few moves this week. Did pick up Danny Jansen for his catcher, however. I know Jansen's had a really bad start to the season. He's only hitting 169. Nice. But they've said that Jansen has tried very, very hard to control the pitchers in Toronto. And that might be what is causing his slow offensive start. If that pickup actually does come to fruition and Danny Jansen starts hitting, could be a huge pickup for Bobby. And if it doesn't, he drops him and he moves on. For Mike, he went 5 for 21 on his bench, which is a 238 batting average, a run, an RBI, a steal, 2 walks, and 5 strikeouts. The big pickup of the week, and spoiler alert already, Tuesday, he dropped Nick Margevicius and picked up a guy who was going to be starting against Cincinnati at home. Cincinnati hasn't exactly been hitting all that well lately, so I like the idea of that stream. That guy's name was Mike Fiers, who threw a fucking no-hitter. This guy just streamed a no-hitter. That's the stream of the year, period. Unless somebody goes out and fucking streams a perfect game, that's the stream of the year. Well done to you, Mr. Sherman. Otherwise, the rest of the week, not a whole lot as far as pickups or drops. Key players this week for Bobby. Josh Bell is having himself a season. You remember a couple of years ago where that guy hit 20-plus homers? Yeah, he's well on his way to do that again this year. This week, he hit 478 with a 520 on base, 2 homers, 9 RBIs, 5 runs, 3 doubles, 2 walks, and 2 homers. On the season, he's hitting 319, and he already has 10 homers and 34 RBIs. Dude is raking. And for somebody who was taken in the 12th round, almost around pick 200, past names like Joey Votto, past names like Matt Carpenter, all first base eligible. That is an absolute steal and is absolutely anchoring Bobby's first base spot. Mike Trout is doing Mike Trout things. 250 batting average for the week, but a 407 on base because he walked 6 times, 2 homers, 5 RBIs, 2 doubles, and 6 runs scored with a steal. And finally, Nick Markakis. He only hit 174 for the week, but he had a triple and a homer. And Bobby, having only two triples on the week, figured I'd give it to him because the other triple was Brett Gardner, who hit 111 for the week. So, pitching-wise for Bobby, Garrett Cole is a Cy Young candidate this year. That man, first of all, he pitched 12 and a third, a quality start with 12 strikeouts. The other one was not a quality start, but he got a win, 9 strikeouts. That's 21 strikeouts over 12 and a third innings. Fuck. On the season, Garrett Cole has 86 strikeouts over 55 and 2/3 innings. I think Houston won that trade. Also for Bobby, Roberto Ozuna got him 3 saves and 3 relief appearances. Considering Bobby won saves by 1, there's your MVP in the bullpen. And finally, Max Fried, a guy that Bobby picked up in April. He got him 6 innings. The ERA you'll see in the matchup is not indicative of what I'm giving him this MVP for, or key player for. The start on Sunday in Arizona is what it really boils down to. 5 innings, 7 strikeouts, and he got the win. Bobby obviously wins by 1, and Max Fried starting on Sunday gave him a win. There's why I gave that to him. For Sherman, offensively, again, not much to write home. His team only hit 212. Odubel Herrera, 304 with a 333 on base, 6 RBIs, a triple, 4 doubles, and 4 runs scored. Pete Alonso. Okay, so Pete Alonso, when I was in San Diego, we were sitting in the seats, like basically, if you've watched the highlight, I'm sure everybody has by now, of Bartolo Colon hitting his home run in Petco. We were sitting in the seats basically where that landed, in the left field corner underneath the Western Metal Supply Company building. Pete Alonso's homer just absolutely flew over our heads. That was a monster fucking bomb. And it was 1 of 2 for the week for Sherman, 5 RBIs and 4 runs scored. And finally, his number 1 overall pick, Ronald Acuna, he had 214 for the week, but he had 2 homers and 3 RBIs and 3 runs scored. You know, I don't want to say that you're disappointed in what Ronald Acuna has given you this year, because he's doing fine. Like, he's hitting 279 with 8 homers and 23 RBIs. But, like, I don't know. For where he was drafted, which was 10th overall, I just feel like you'd expect more from him. I don't know. We'll see at the midseason whether he's a bust in the first round. Pitching wise, again, I said it already. It's Mike Fiers. He threw a fucking no-hitter. You know, it's a complete game, 6 strikeouts, 2 walks. Fucking amazing. Carlos Carrasco also gave him a decent. Oh, this was another rain-shortened complete game. Don't tell me it doesn't happen, because apparently it fucking does. So, you know, let's put the shoe on the other foot. Let's, for the sake of argument, say Bobby had Carlos Carrasco this week, and you have no-hitter and a rain-shortened 5-inning complete game. They would tie in that category. That's bullshit. Instead, Mike has 2 complete games this week. And finally, Julio Urias gave him 2 saves over 4 innings. Pretty surprising. Again, nothing else to write home about here. Offensively, both teams were pretty weak, but Bobby swept all of the offensive categories. If not for the Fiers complete game, this would probably be an uglier finish than it was. But yeah, that is what it is. Great stream from Mike. Absolutely great stream from Mike. We move on, and we move on to witness protection. Jason Ashby facing off with Ben's roommate's team. Oh, you are just so fucking creative, James Santangelo. I called you out for the most uncreative name, and you go with that. Okay. It was number 7 versus number 13 coming into the week. Ben's roommate's team won the week 12-8. James won home runs given up by a pitcher by 1. Jason won stolen bases by 1, wins by 1, and whip by .01. They tied in RBIs. For James, who won the week, he went 3 for 19 on his bench with a 158 batting average, 3 runs, a homer, 2 RBIs, 4 walks, 4 strikeouts, and 2 errors. The only thing I wrote as far as things that were on his bench during the week, he benched a Robbie Ray start, which was 5 2/3 with 11 strikeouts. At the end of the day, it doesn't look like that mattered much. His whip was 1.24 for the day, which would not have lowered his whip. Actually would have increased it. So He couldn't have gotten that one. K's were far. Did he get the win in that start, though? That's the only question I have there. He did not. So, again, it was a good benching, actually. I've noticed, James, that you're rather, I don't want to say hesitant because that's not the right word. Conservative is a good word for it. You're conservative to throw your pitchers once you see that you're going to reach the innings limit, which is good on you. You've done a very good job as far as benching pitchers and it not hurting you. For me, regression says that the further away from the mean and the median that you would be, the more likely it is that you'll have those come back to haunt you. But so far, you've been doing fantastic with it. Only 2 moves for the week. Nothing to write home there. We move on to Jason Ashby. Jason went 19 for 53, which is a 358 batting average. 7 runs, 6 doubles, a triple, 3 homers, 8 RBIs, a walk, 10 strikeouts, and 2 errors on the week. Big things. Ryan Healy went 4 for 5 on Wednesday with a homer and 3 doubles on the bench. Anthony Rendon went 0 for 4 in the lineup. Now, I'm not saying that you would bench Anthony Rendon for Ryan Healy there. I'm not saying that. But considering Ryan Healy in his lineup hit 091, but the guy had a 4 for 5 day with 3 doubles, that hurts to see. That really hurts to see. As well, on Friday, Dansby Swanson went 3 for 4 with a triple on the bench. J.P. Crawford was in the lineup and didn't perform well. Dansby Swanson you picked up because you needed a shortstop to fill in for Justin Turner. And I get giving J.P. Crawford a shot. I would flop that. Dansby's been really good so far this year. I'd leave him in as my starting shortstop. And if J.P. Crawford gets hot, let him get hot on the bench. I mean, you're taking a flyer on the guy. But that's my call. As far as moves are concerned, man, what does Josh Begley have to do to get on somebody's roster full time? I mean, it doesn't even look like the guy made the lineup very much for Josh. It's like he picked him up late last week and dropped him on Friday. No, he picked him up on Monday and dropped him on Friday. So, and he only got into the lineup, I think, once because he's got Wilson Contreras. So, this guy plays pretty well. I mean, he's hitting 269. He's got 4 homers and 22 RBIs. I mean, granted, he doesn't play every day, but he's only missed 4 of the last 12-ish games. No catcher is going to start every day. Salvador Perez is on the DL this year. So, for a guy who certainly is better than, I don't know, Wilson Ramos so far this year, what does a guy like Begley have to do to get on somebody's roster? Just a question. Key players for this matchup for Santangelo, it's Brandon Belt. Brandon Belt hit 333 with a 571 on base with 5 walks and only 1 strikeout and 3 doubles with 4 runs scored. Another guy who's not going to play every day was picked up, middle of last month for him. Mike Moustakas had a good week for him, despite the fact that he hit 172. A homer and 5 RBIs and a steal with 2 doubles and 4 runs scored. I gave it to him because of the home runs. This was yet another matchup where offensively things didn't happen much for these guys. Santangelo didn't hit a home run this week, and he didn't have a triple. He had 5 homers and 27 RBIs. Wow, I don't know why I thought it was like 3 homers and 10 RBIs and 0 homers and 5 RBIs. That would have been an absolutely atrocious week. For James, David Dahl. David Dahl had a good week. 429 average, 467 on base, 3 runs, and 2 doubles. Pitching-wise, It's Blake Snell again. A quality start, 9 strikeouts, six innings. It looks like he benched him against the Yankees. He had 12 strikeouts in that game, but he lost. 12 strikeouts in 5 2/3. It's a fantastic start, except for the loss and the 2 walks. But the start against Arizona was Fantastic. Luke Weaver gave him a good start as well. 7 innings, 6 strikeouts, 1 earned run at home against Atlanta. And finally, Tanner Roark. Quality start as well. 6 innings, 3 strikeouts, the win against Oakland in Oakland. For Jason, it's Whit Merrifield this week, 292 batting average, 346 on base. Filled the counting stat line with the exception of doubles. 3 runs, a triple, a homer, 5 RBIs, a steal, a walk, 2 strikeouts, no errors. Considering he won stolen bases by 1. Dansby Swanson is another one. 231 batting average, but a 286 on base with 2 steals. That's the big thing, is the 2 steals. And Austin Meadows came back off the DL and just started raking immediately. 417 average, 462 on base, 2 homers and 3 RBIs, a double and 3 runs scored. Pitching-wise for Jason, it is his first-round pick, Max Scherzer. 17 strikeouts over 13 innings pitched. 10 strikeouts, 6 innings in Milwaukee and a no decision. And then 7 innings and a win, 7 strikeouts in LA against the Dodgers. Those are 2 matchups that if you had just about anybody else, you'd probably bench them. But because it's Max, you're going to start him against everybody, but you're going to start him against good lineups in their stadiums, and he's still going to dominate. Guy's ridiculous. Kirby Yates, who I saw close down a game for San Diego against our Mets, the day game, 3-2. He gave Jason two saves on 2 relief appearances. I believe he struck out. Did he strike out the side? Yeah, he struck out the side against the Mets in his 1 inning of work. And finally, Jake Odorizzi gave him a good outing. 7 innings, 5 strikeouts, just, I believe, 1 hit against Detroit. Again, this matchup was pretty close. Great pitchers duel with a 2.28 ERA from James winning the week. Offensively, it wasn't as bad as some of these other ones. Jason put up 10 homers, but only hit a 2.38 average. Ben's roommates team moves to 11th. Jason stays at 7th. We move on. And we move on to, I got a text message last night from our commissioner who said that he was biased, that he thought his was the most interesting matchup. I tend to agree, and I'll explain why later on, but this was managerial chess. Like, this was ridiculous by week's end. To fully introduce, it was we met on Pinder. Great new name, Benny. Love the new name. Defeating Kikuchi Kuchiku. 2 of the greatest, I have to say, 2 of the greatest team names in the history of the league right there. Ben and his Uncle Barry face off. Ben does get the win 12-9. Ben won by 1 loss, 1 save, and .01 in whip. Uncle Barry wins by 1 double, a win, and a home run given up by a pitcher. For Benny, he went 2 for 18 on his bench, which is a 111 batting average, a run, an RBI, a walk, 4 strikeouts, and an error. The thing that got me with Ben, though, and I started to see this as I was tabulating all of this, he benched quite a few good starts, but it might not have been a bad thing. He benched Kyle Freeland on, Thursday? 5 innings, 3 strikeouts, 4 walks. I don't think he gave up an earned run. He benched Kevin Gausman, 6 innings, 1 earned, 6 strikeouts, and 2 walks on the bench. And he benched Masahiro Tanaka on Sunday, 7 innings, and an earned run, 7 strikeouts, and a win. The win is the only thing that may haunt him. Like, the innings weren't close. He lost by about 12 innings, so he would have needed 2 of those starts. The win, he would have tied wins. The strikeouts, he won anyway. But the thing about this matchup is the ERA totals for the two. Ben wins this with a 1.27 and an 0.73 whip. And Uncle Barry was not far behind with a 1.82 ERA and an 0.74 whip. That was an incredible chess match to watch. These guys, like, hats off to them. That is not a pairing you will see often. Ben's moves, nothing surprises me. He was chasing a catcher for a long time. Unfortunately for Benny, his offensively, his team just didn't come to hit. He only hit .216 on the week, only had 1 homer. But he did get 2 triples, with 1 in net and 3 steals. He walked a ton, didn't strike out as much. So he got enough offensive categories to carry him. For Uncle Barry, he went 19 for 49, which is a .388 batting average, 9 runs, 5 doubles, a triple, 4 homers, 10 RBIs, a steal, and 7 strikeouts. Now, Barry, we had a conversation on the boards. I don't pretend to know everything that's going on your team. All I can do is be Captain Hindsight and look at a team, look at how they performed, look at the results, and say, well, here's a guy who was pitching well or a guy who was hitting well, but you left on your bench. Tuesday, Raimel Tapia, 3 for 4 with a double and an RBI. You won both doubles and RBIs, so I can't fault you for it. But Alex Gordon went 0 for 4 in the lineup. On Thursday, Alex Gordon, 2 for 4, 2 homers, 3 RBIs, 2 runs on the bench. Lurie Garcia went 0 for 4 in right field. But you won homers and you won RBIs. So it doesn't hurt. And you won average by a ton. And you won OBP by a ton. So I can't fault you for that. Trevor Williams went 7 innings with an earned run and 5 strikeouts on your bench. But the start was in St. Louis, so I can't blame you for benching him. St. Louis, again, extremely hot team. They were the best team in baseball at some point this week. On Saturday, Omar Narvaez caught fire, 2 for 4 with a solo homer. Molina went 0 for 4. Polanco hit a triple on your bench. Goodwin was 0 for 4 in the lineup. Zach Davies, 6 1/3 of 1 earned and 5 strikeout. But I could see where you were picking and choosing your battles for pitching categories. You had to. Ben was putting up an all-time great week in ERA and WHIP, and you had to try to match it. So I could understand the risky plays. You really didn't want to ruin your week. It was a great back and forth. It's a true testament to the managers you guys are. I think if Ben's offense had come to play a little bit more, it would have been a much closer matchup. It would have been interesting to see what would have happened if Ben's offense came to play as hard as they should week to week. Key players for the week for Benny, who won. It's Jason Kipnis. Again, Ben's offense really didn't play all that much. They didn't perform as well. But Kipnis for the week hit .280, hit 4 doubles, an RBI, and 2 steals. The 2 steals is the reason I give it to him, is because he won steals 3-1. Chris Taylor had a good week, though I believe he was dropped. Yeah, Chris Taylor hit 200, 3 RBIs, a triple, a double, and a run scored. Again, Ben won triples. That's why I'll give it to him. And Jose Peraza, where's he? Jose Peraza, 357 batting average, 500 on base. Benny didn't. Benny had a 216 batting average. If Peraza hit 357 for the week and he still only had a 216 average, Peraza probably did pretty well. Pitching wise, though, man, where do I start? Raisel Iglesias, 2 saves. Considering that he won saves by 1, Raisel Iglesias and Aroldis Chapman both gave him 2 saves, but Iglesias was much better. 3 innings, 5 strikeouts, whereas Chapman only had the 2 innings. Chris Sale, man, if ever there was a moment where you said, well, I can see Benny's going to win that trade, it was this start. 8 innings, 14 strikeouts, 1 earned run, no walks against Baltimore. No decision, though, because they won 2-1 in Baltimore and they won late. And finally, Kyle Gibson, 6 innings, a win, 11 strikeouts, 1 earned run, and a home run. The start was in Toronto. Fantastic start for him. For Uncle Barry, Gregory Polanco, who we picked up off the scrap heap, 500 average, 556 on base, 2 homers, 7 RBIs, 5 runs scored, and 2 doubles. I guess Jason's kicking himself for dropping him. All of a sudden, the guy comes back from the DL and he's raking. Yuli Gurriel, I hate that guy's name. I can never pronounce it right. Yuli Gurriel hit 440, a homer and 3 RBIs, 6 runs, and 2 doubles. And Paul Goldschmidt, the number 1 pick for Uncle Barry, right? That's right. Yeah, first round, 13th overall. 357 average, 438 on base, a homer, 4 RBIs, a double, and 5 runs scored. Pitching-wise for Uncle Barry, Miles Michaelis finally gets his name on this list for the right reasons. 14 innings, 12 strikeouts, a 1.29 ERA, a fantastic start at home against Philadelphia, and a good start despite a loss at home against Pittsburgh. Yusei Kikuchi is starting to turn it around. 7 2/3, a win, 3 strikeouts, only 1 earned. The start was in New York, and the team went crazy and gave him 10 runs of support. Finally, Felipe Vasquez gave him his 3 saves over 3 innings with 4 strikeouts. Just a shame to see Blake Parker not get a save, or him to come up on another one to try to tie it. The difference in the ERA and WHIP categories that Ben won might be an early stream from Uncle Barry of Brett Anderson. Brett Anderson started for him, went 6 innings, and gave up what looks like 3 earned. 4 earned? 4 earned. Yeah, 4 earned over 6 innings. Anderson didn't strike out a guy, but he walked 5. He didn't factor in the decision, but Brett Anderson did not give the good start you want there. Considering he later benched Zach Davies and Trevor Williams in good starts, that really is the difference between the 1.82 and the 1.27. But again, great week from both of you guys. That was entertaining to look at. We move on, and it's Andy Solar Greco, all brawn and no brains, against the Beavers, Nick Homan. The Beavers takes the win here, 12-7. Close categories, Nick wins by 2 steals, an error, and 2 relief appearances. Andy won by 1 win. They tied in triples and saves. For Nick, who won the week, he went 9 for 29 on the bench. That's a 310 batting average. 5 runs, 2 doubles, 2 homers, 6 RBIs, 9 strikeouts, and an error. The things that got me, though, Nick dominated offensively. The only thing he did not win was doubles. But on Tuesday, it looks like Franmil Reyes went 3 for 5 with 2 runs, a home run, and 2 RBIs on the bench, and Puig went 0 for 2. Disappointing to see, though it didn't hurt him in the long run. Later on in the week, on Friday, Franmil Reyes 3 for 5 with a run and a double on the bench. McCutchen 0 for 4 in right field. And on Sunday, the utility spot was empty, and Franmil Reyes hits a homer and has 3 RBIs on the bench. Franmil Reyes is a legitimate player. He's a legitimate starter, and he should be starting on somebody's team. Spoiler alert, tried to trade for him. Wanted Joe Musgrove. Wouldn't pull the trigger. Probably should have this week, but whatever. He made a silly move in picking up Matt Shoemaker this week. That guy's done for the year. That was a silly move. Otherwise, not a whole lot to write home for. He did stream, what was it, Corbin Martin? Is that guy's name? Who had a good first impression. 5 1/3 and 9 strikeouts, but it doesn't look like he started him. So he picked him up to leave him on the bench. Interesting. For Andy, Andy went 19 for 67, which is a 284 batting average. 10 runs, a double, a triple, 3 homers, 11 RBIs, 2 steals, 12 walks, 16 strikeouts, and an error. The triple is the biggest one that hurts because they tied in that category. Otherwise, the 2 steals would have tied the category. Otherwise, everything else is sort of a runaway already. The one thing I did watch on Andy, a lot of decisions went the wrong way for him. I understand you want to leave Jose Leclerc on the bench because of his struggles recently. He gave you a 2-inning relief appearance. That would have brought that category within 1, and you can start chasing. That was on Tuesday. On Wednesday, Jesus Aguilar did not play in the lineup, and Ryan Braun, who's on that team and has first base eligibility, had a steal, which would have brought you within 1. The next day, Cole Calhoun went 2 for 4 with 3 runs, a homer, an RBI, and a walk. Nomar Mazara was 0 for 4 in right field. The next day, which was Friday, Cole Calhoun with a triple on the bench. Nomar Mazara is 0 for 2 in right field. The triple would have won Andy the week. And Matt Olson went 0 for 4 at first base. And Aguilar and Braun, who both have first base eligibility, went a combined 2 for 7 with a homer and 3 RBIs. On Saturday, Cole Calhoun had a steal on the bench. Nomar Mazara didn't play in right field. And finally on Sunday, Matt Olson has a homer on the bench. Nelson Cruz is 0 for 3 in the lineup at utility. You just sometimes have weeks like this where you think you make the right decisions and everything just goes sideways. I get it. It happens. It happened to be fucking pitching this week. You think you're making the right call, and they just backfire at every turn. But to scrape out 7 wins in the pitching categories, Andy still had a good week. Key players this week for Nick. Holy shit, George Springer. 519 batting average, 563 on base percentage, 10 runs, 5 homers, 10 RBIs, 2 doubles. Dude was lights out. Chris Bryant was right behind him, 320 batting average, 485 on base percentage, 4 homers, 7 RBIs, 9 runs scored, and a triple, 8 walks. And finally, Eddie Rosario. He had a down week last week, I think, but he came back with a vengeance. 308 batting average, a steal, 2 homers, 7 RBIs, and 5 runs scored. Pitching wise for Nick, Jacob deGrom had 2 starts, 14 innings, 15 strikeouts, a 1.93. The start in San Diego was the pitcher's duel against Chris Paddock, where the Mets couldn't get him any runs, and I think he only gave up like a 2-run homer to Renfroe, maybe. And then his start against Miami on Saturday, 8 strikeouts over 7 innings with a win. Jordan Lyles gave him a good start for Pittsburgh with 6 innings, 6 strikeouts. That was in St. Louis. Looks like Pittsburgh had a good time in St. Louis this past week. They took 3 of 4 from them, which is nice to see because St. Louis, fuck those guys. And finally, Tony Watson got him 3 relief appearances, 2 2/3, and a win. Considering he won relief appearances by 2, I was going to give it to the guy with the best line for the week. So Tony Watson gets him that one. For Andy, Rafi Devers finally coming back to life. A 480 batting average, 519 on base percentage, a homer, 7 RBIs, 4 runs, 2 doubles, a steal, 2 walks, and 2 strikeouts. David Peralta gave him a 370 batting average, 414 on base percentage, 2 runs, a double, a triple, a homer, 2 RBIs, 2 walks, and 8 strikeouts. And Corey Seager. Corey Seager only hit 188 on the week, but he had 7 RBIs. Considering that, Andy didn't get close in RBIs, but the guy had 7 RBIs for the week. And he pieced together 8 doubles. So, and I already pointed out the guy who had the most doubles on the team. But Corey Seager getting 7 doubles is a solid number for the week. Pitching wise, Justin Verlander, 7 innings, 8 strikeouts, and the win at home against Texas. Zach Wheeler had a great start against Miami, 7 innings, 11 strikeouts. And I was really hoping to see him after Syndergaard in San Diego, but they threw Wilmer fucking Font, who wasn't terrible, but I would have really liked to see Syndergaard and Wheeler rather than Wilmer Font. And finally, Patrick Corbin. I watched this start. 7 innings, shutout ball, 8 strikeouts, 4 walks, though. You don't like to see that many walks. But given that he got the win and it was 7 shutout innings, it was a fantastic start for him. Overall, it was another case of pitching versus hitting. Nick took the vast majority of the hitting categories and a couple of the pitching categories, enough to get the win, 12-7. That brings me to the best and worst. And how did I do on time this week? Whoa, longer than ever. Best start of the week. I mean, the best start of the week absolutely has to be the Mike Fiers no-hitter. If it's not, what am I doing here? It's also the best stream of the week. Congratulations, Sherman. That's once a year you get a no-hitter in the league, let alone to pick the guy up off the waiver wire and stream him for it. Best weekly performances, pitching-wise, I'm going to give it to Hyun-Jin Ryu. 17 innings, all shutout ball, a complete game in there, 15 strikeouts, a walk, and 2 wins. Not saying that that he had a better single start than Mike Fiers, but those 2, 9 innings and 8 innings, both of shutout ball, that many strikeouts to only 1 walk. Yeah, he had the best pitching week by far. Offensively, it was George Springer, 519, 562 on base, 10 runs, 5 homers, 10 RBIs, and 2 doubles. The worst starts of the week, I had 4 of them. 4 out of the 5 I'm going to point to. I had Drew Pomeranz, an inning and 2/3, 7 earned. Trevor Bauer, 5 innings, 7 earned. Pablo Lopez, 3 innings and 10 earned. Joe Musgrove, 3 innings and 8 earned. Holy shit. My team was garbage this week. The only other one I'll highlight is Merrill Kelly, who went 4 innings and 7 earned. I did stream him, though, and he had a much better start for me. And if you noticed that, Merrill Kelly starts really well on my team and not well on others. I don't know what that means. I'm not keeping him, but whatever. Worst weekly performance of a top 2-round player, I have 2. Jose Altuve, 188 batting average, 278 on base, 2 runs, a walk, 2 strikeouts, and an error. And he lands on the DL. Obviously I'm not going to use those players who were on the DL in this. You have to actually play a full week. But when you lose a guy in the middle of a week, that sucks. And that should count. The other one is Jose Ramirez, 192, a 323 on base percentage, though. A run, a homer, 2 RBIs, a stolen base, 5 walks, and 4 strikeouts. If we just analyze first-round pick versus first-round pick this week, Jose Ramirez had the line I just told you about. Chris Sale had a 14-strikeout, 8-inning start. Boys, let's make it a fantastic week this week as well. As I stated, it might be, late Monday that I get the video up. Might be Tuesday, depending on how my week goes. I do have Mike Sherman as my opponent this week. So best of luck to you, sir. Yeah, let's make it a fantastic week. And go Vegas.